Hey everybody, welcome back to Movie Master, where we rank, review, trailer react, and talk news about movies, TV shows, and video games. Now today I'm going to talk about why Andrew Garfield is often misunderstood as Spider-Man. Now, I'm not thrashing Toby and Tom, so don't go in the comment section going, "Oh, you're thrashing Toby and Tom." I'm not thrashing Toby and Tom, that's not what I'm doing. I'm trying to prove my points. So, let's get into it. The first point I want to address, the fact is that, remember, this is all my opinion, and some of it is breaking down and actually watching these films and breaking it down. I'm not dragging my opinion from other people. I'm actually just trying to create a video about why people often misunderstand this take on our favorite web slinger. Let's just keep the comments lighthearted down below. Let's not just get into a fight, okay? Let's just talk about comics and heroes, which is what this video is to talk about. First, now this is the first thing I often hear getting complained about Andrew's character is he's not casted right in the role. Now, I could see why some people think that, but he's not miscasted at all. For those who say, no, Andrew's too sexy, or he doesn't match Peter Parker, his acting's terrible. That's because you've only seen him with he has amazing acting. I've seen The Social Network and Tick Tick Boom, two of his other movies, and he's amazingly well portrayed of these characters. Heck, he even learned how to sing in Tick Tick Boom, just to try and get the singing right. He learned how to sing. And for this movie alone, because he's British, remember, he went to Queens and talked with a bunch of Queens people and with his vocalist to learn how to speak like a Queens guy. One video I often notice that criticizes and heavily bashes it is the Cosmonaut Variety video that was released a few years back. Now, I find it funny. I watch it for entertainment and funny purposes. But I don't watch it as an actual video that actually critiques the films. And I often think that people misunderstand Andrew's take on the wall crawl. Only a few people, in my opinion, actually understand this take on our hero. Now, was he miscast? No, he was perfectly cast. Because, well, think about it. Hypothetically, you are Sony Studios. It is 2010. Your director, Sam Raimi, has just walked away from the project of Spider-Man 4 saying, I don't want to make a movie that is less than great. Walks away. Not only that, their lead actor also walks away knowing that the films could never be as good if Raimi isn't there to make them. And with that, you reboot the films. Now, I know that these two films are made merely just to keep the rights, and I know these films were mainly controlled by the studios, and they took an amazing amount of actors and a director and ruined it. But I don't think Andrew Garfield's miscast. I don't think he's miscast on the role as Spider-Man. All these actors, if they're given better material, they can make amazing movies. Like they made since Spider-Man 1, I've even rewriting some of these movies, and they'll still even fit into the plot lines that they're going to give for the Spider-Man No Way Home film. In my opinion, yeah, these movies are decent. The first one's quite good, but the second one, I've made clear points on why I'm not a big fan of the film. But my point I'm trying to say is that Andrew is not miscast, and a lot of people dislike him because he's a cooler take on Peter Parker's character. And people complain because he's not comic accurate. Well, here's the hard thing. It's a reboot. What exactly can you do? It's a reboot. You have to do something new. You can't do the same thing from the predecessing movies. Because, well, you can't. You can't just do the same thing over again. People won't want that. Critics, you're trying to please. It's hard because you have to please the critics and the fans. That's why I wish they stuck to the tone. Because you need to establish a few things, well, not five, but you need to establish a few things to actually make this franchise be good, in my opinion, to be better. One, they keep the tone. They should have kept the Batman-like tone. The dark and grounded tone would have made it different from the series before, because the original one was cinematic action. It had a very big Spider-Man comic book feel. This one was dark, grounded, and a bit more realistic, whereas the next one will be more comedy and romance. It'll be more comedy being the center stage and romance with a bit of action and the end of it. That's why I think those movies matched well with the tone. These two movies don't match up well in tone. Another thing they need to keep the same is the theme song. A theme song is what establishes, especially for a superhero, since they're known for their theme songs, it's what keeps them so iconic. It cements them in iconicness. Now, whenever I think of Sam Raimi, anybody who ever thinks of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, you think of that amazingly scored theme song by Danny Elfman. Whenever you think about Tom Holland's Spider-Man, you think about that Michael Giacchino, sorry for mispronouncing his name, you think about his amazing score. When you think about Amazing Spider-Man, who do you think about? James Horn or Hans Zimmerman? Now I can see why they brought on Hans Zimmerman to be composer for the films to make the song more iconic, but why not just keep James Horn on and make the theme song, make him say, hey, we want the theme song to be more iconic. Can you make it be more superhero-like? That's not the point of this. It's meant to be realistic. The theme song keeps that realism, but yeah, I do not like the fact that the music sometimes, like when Uncle Ben dies in the film, I'm not saying no spoilers. It came out 9 years ago. Watch it or just click away from the video. But this film, it sometimes put music in to try and make you, like, when it's scary, they want you to be scared, or when it's dark, they want you to be sad, or they want you to be terrified or happy. Danny Elfman, when he was making the first Spider-Man film, he picked a lighthearted moment and made the music over there. When Spider-Man's swinging, he makes the music more hopeful. When it's sad, it's more saddening. When it's a romance, it's more lightly saddening, yet pretty slim. That's what the Amazing Spider-Man does with the theme song. And in my opinion, all the actors are amazingly cast well. And I think a lot of people judge that the fact that Peter is too cool. Had we seen the movies came out, because, well, if we seen more movies from Andrew Garfield's take on the Warcrawler, we would have likely seen him grow into the Peter we see from the comics. That's what they're doing right now with the Tom Holland one. He will soon grow up into the Spider-Man we see in the comics. And Peter prefers to be just alone and not really involve himself in other things and pretty much abandon his entire normal life. That's the thing this Peter would face. He would face those challenges, and he would face a different challenge to the Peter of the Raimi movies. Now, people who judge him saying this isn't comic accurate aren't actually filmmakers, no offense. Now am I saying Sony Studios is great? Hell no, they ruined this franchise with a second installment. I'm not saying Sony Studios was the one that was great with it. It was Mark Webb and his amazing team. What's so saddening is the movie that this got sent him to, the movie he sent it in as, was a masterpiece of movie that would have delved more deep into Peter's character and how the identity can affect the ones around him. The only thing I wish they did was cut Green Goblin out entirely, cut Rhino out entirely, and keep it being Peter, Gwen, and Electro, and make Green Goblin just Harry Osborn. Don't bring him in as Green Goblin until a third film. The Amazing Spider-Man 1 is another issue, no offense. That's the only thing I wish they'll change is close up some of the plot holes that they left, because that's the issue with the film. I don't like it when a film will not close up the plot holes in the sequel and then just create new ones that the next one is supposed to close. Because there's plot holes like Uncle Ben's death and all that established in this one, but this isn't finished. Peter catching Uncle Ben's killer is a big moment in Peter's career, because it shows that it was his fault, and he soon owns up to mistakes and becomes a palpable hero. This would have taught him what it was meaning to be Spider-Man, and that's what I think should have put back in The Amazing Spider-Man. If you put Mark Webb's true vision of The Amazing Spider-Man back into this film and cut away all the Sony BS that was layered over it, it's truly a fully Amazing Spider-Man. Now, this is one thing. One part I like is Movie Flame. He made a video saying Far From Home was the best. I'm not judging anyone saying it's the best, but one part I didn't like is how Peter Parker of the Amazing Spider-Man movies told Gwen he was Spider-Man. He apparently said, I don't like it. It establishes these cool characters and makes them awkward. But that's the thing. The way it's told is unrealistic. Of course, that's what realistic. Not to mention, let's put a few factors in here. A, Peter is mostly a cool, relaxed personality, partially throughout the film, but he's shifted into an asshole or awkward mood. Not to mention, he's literally saying this in front of his crush. He has a crush on Gwen Stacy, so that would be an issue for anybody. Anybody who's like, so for example, imagine I was Spider-Man and I was telling my crush who I was friends with that I was secretly in my night days running around in a red and blue spandex costume, beating the hell out of criminals and trying to stop a big ginormous dinosaur lizard from destroying the city. How exactly do I tell that? Not only to that, to a girl that I really like, not only to that, but this is the first person he's telling his identity to. So of course it makes sense he's going to be a bit weirded out about wanting to do it. And of course it's realistic for a teenager to go, it's a bit realistic for a teenager to mumble when he tells secrets to somebody, because that's what a teenager does. They mumble, they fumble. That's what people do. Any person mumbles and fumbles. Like, look at my videos I posted. I stutter and I mumble throughout the entire videos when I shoot these. Like, for example, earlier, you see me doing this, or I'm mumbling or doing something on like this throughout a video. That's the thing with it. Realistically, that's what Andrew Garfield's Peter, that's what Peter Parker, if he was in the real world, would mumble if he was trying to tell somebody he was Spider-Man. Now, in my opinion, I still think they did it really well, like with this one, they did for Tom's Peter. But yeah, I really did think the Amazing Spider-Man 1 did that well when he revealed his identity to Gwen. And I do think they should have cut Captain Stacy's death and saved it for another film, because it would have felt more impactful if the death got to be more themed, because, well, we had to deal with already 3 deaths, the parents and the Uncle Ben. We don't really need to see him lose more father figures, in my opinion. But in my opinion, yeah, I think this film, Andrew is not miscast. He's not a terrible Peter Parker. Oh yes, he's definitely a good Spider-Man. Now, Cosmonaut Variety's video, to break that one down, says that Peter reverts to being a nice guy and being an asshole. And I don't get where exactly this goes, because that's what teenagers are. They tried to make this realistic to a teenager. That's what teenagers are. They're nice people, then they're assholes. It's kind of what a teenager is. What do you think? Just look it up in a dictionary. Heck, I even hang around people that are nice people that can just turn into straight up a-holes when I go near them. Like, some of my friends are nice guys when you interact with them, but then other times they can be just complete a-holes. Like, even me, I'm a teenager. I can be nice to around to people, but then I can just turn into a complete a-hole and go, please, just leave me alone. Or I can just turn into a complete a-hole. That's what realistic teenagers are. They're they're nice guys and then a-holes. It's kind of what a teenager is. They can be nice in bits and then they can turn into a-holes. They're fluxing. It's called, not really fluxing, they're mood swings. It's what a teenager has. It's what realistic. How does he not know this? That he should have, if he's a Spider-Man fan, he should know this by digging into this. That's what this movie was trying to do. Mark Webb was trying to dig into a new area of Spider-Man's character that was never explored before. Whereas Raimi was adapting a classic story of Spider-Man and showing the more vulnerable side of that classic Peter Parker. This one, Mark Webb was trying to adapt a new version of the character. Because, well, he had to make it different. He had 2 goals. He had to make it different, you make it similar. So I think people who say, oh, I can make a movie better than him or some BS is not something you want to say, considering they're professionals. They've been doing this longer. So yeah, that's why I think Cosmonaut Variety, some of his quotes about the first Amazing Spider-Man, even some parts about the second one, are a bit overcompensated. Now, I'd agree with anybody that Andrew is a great actor. All the actors are. None of them are miscast. They're just given, not they're really that great material. And that's the issue. People always undermine it and think, oh, it's the actor's fault. Some people think it like that, but it's not actually the actor's fault. That's why I think, in my opinion, you need to look a bit deeper into the world of Spider-Man. Now, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is a different case. The Amazing Spider-Man 1, like I said, it had its issues. I think there were some deleted scenes that need to be added back in to show the full story Mark Webb wanted to tell. Like, it could show the villain was more vulnerable, that he had more vulnerable sides, which is why that in the film, Billy was a character in the film, to show that he was vulnerable, human. It showed a human part of his character. Cutting out the film entirely, cutting out the entire family dynamic of his character is kind of what removes him from being a human person. Because everybody has something that links them to being human. Even when they go so far that they become inhuman to themselves and to people around them, they still have something that links them back to being human. And that's literally what happens for Kirk Connors. He becomes so inhuman that he still has something that connects him back to being normal, to being a human. All these people are broken. They're such broken people that are looking for an answer to something. They're searching for something. Peter has no father. He searches up in the clouds like his dad did years ago. Peter searches up for a father that is just like him. That's what he does with Kirk Connors. He tries to fix Kirk Connors so he can have that father he really wants. And in the process, he loses the father he already has. That's why I think Martin Sheen's Uncle Ben is so well done. Now, Clifford Robertson, he's an icon. He portrayed Uncle Ben as an icon, like he was an icon, and legacy that was left on there. That's what Uncle Ben is. He's a bit of an icon, but the Mark Webb films make him grounded. They make him an important part of Peter's life. The one thing I never liked about movie fans' videos is saying, oh, Peter suffers. What he likes about Far From Home is that Peter doesn't suffer anything. He suffered all great losses in the other movies. Because somehow the movie gets dragged down when Uncle Ben dies. But what did you think? It's a part of Spider-Man's character. Death is a part of his character. There's also another point, just to veer off, that he says that Norman Osborn's death from the Raimi trilogy was a bad thing and affected the rest of the trilogy. It didn't. That was how it was written. But I'll get into that in a whole nother video when I do a debate against his video. Now, I believe that the Mason Simon one had to take out all the BS that Sony put in, shove back in all the deleted scenes, shove back in all the Mark Webb story, close up some of the plot holes, add in some other details that kind of tweak the movie. Then you got a fully amazing Spider-Man. The Amazing Spider-Man 2, who? I'm not going to defend this movie. I'll defend this one. I'll defend it. I'm not going to try and change people's opinion. I know some of my friends and some people around me don't like this character. Like my mom, man, it was so shocking. She was so supportive. Even nowadays, she still doesn't mind Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. It's so shocking that I always used to thrash his Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Now, to say he's a bad Spider-Man, the worst one out of them all. No, when I say he's the third best Spider-Man, it isn't because he's terrible. It's just because, well, nowadays, if I were to rank them, it'd be third Andrew Garfield, second Tobey, first Tom Holland. Because, well, we're going to see the most out of Tom Holland's one, and we're going to see Tobey's one broken down more and expanded. But with Andrew's, we've not really gotten that much backstory or expanded upon. We haven't really seen his one finish out fully. Now, anybody who says The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is a masterpiece, you can like this movie, but for those who say this one's better than any better Spider-Man movie, especially No Way Home or Spider-Man 1 2002, is completely wrong. Now, while I say the actors in this movie are great, the material is completely bad. I'm sorry. What we could have seen was just a great movie that tried to follow up to this. But instead, no. Instead of that, Sony made it. That's why I think this movie is really terrible. Not only, I've already explained it, the plot is cluttered. The plot lines they want to set up get cut off and run back on randomly out of nowhere. This is more jumbled up than Iron Man 2. Now, as you know, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and especially Transformers 4 Age of Extinction, have become the butt of jokes in many of my videos. For those of you who watch some of my past videos, most notably, those two films have become the butt of most of my jokes when I make those movies. Now, I already made a video trash-talking Transformers 4, and they kind of made not that many great points, because I think I was just saying it out of disliking the film rather than actually breaking it down. Now, yes, I'll admit, The Amazing Spider-Man 1 is a good movie. I think it's really good. I think it really well set up. It had some ideas that not really were executed well. I think it just needs some things tweaked. This movie, I think I didn't like the idea of Gwen Stacy dying in this movie. I'd rather she died in another film. The plot should have been cut down. What should have happened is that this should have happened. The first film, in my opinion, I've already get a rewrite. The tweaks I would make to this would be, well, if I tweak the film, take away all the Sony garbage, reinstall every deleted scene. If you have the DVD, if you checked out the deleted scenes, reinstall every deleted scene of the film. Then, well, reinstall the alternate versions of these deleted scenes for see. So there were scenes in the film that never really made sense, and there was alternate versions to them that I'll reinstall into the film. And then after that, alter some stuff like how Peter gets bit by the spider, Peter and Gwen, a few tweaks, and the fact that that Captain Stacy doesn't die, because, well, and end the Peter Parker's parents plotline here. Like, this first film would be about acceptance, in my opinion, about acceptance, accepting the fact that his father is gone, and that Uncle Ben was his fault, and he needs to move on. Also, he would catch Uncle Ben's killer, so. This film would be all about fatherhood. Peter is now still worried. Now, no big fat Peter Parker parents plotline since that was finished in the last film, but he still sometimes thinks of the perfect father he had. He already found the notes about his father and how like he wasn't always the most perfect man. And then Aunt May found out about Peter searching about Peter a bit, talking about his father because he found notes from his desk. Realizing that Peter was researching him was first surprised by it. But anywho, yeah. This movie, my version of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, would finish with Gwen Stacy's dad's death. So, yeah. Because, well, that would be the best way to kind of end that fatherhood thingy. But by killing off Gwen Stacy in the second film. The first two films about fatherhood. The fact that Peter still doesn't get over because that's realistic. Peter won't automatically just by one after one movie get over that with his dad. And Captain Stacy, a lot of people don't like the idea that Captain Stacy said for Peter to stay away from Gwen. Even though it's not comic accurate, that's realistic. Peter is Spider-Man. Peter is Spider-Man. He attracted the lizard and he'll attract many more dangerous foes. Captain Stacy's one thing was to protect his family, and his daughter is one of his family, and he needs to keep her safe, and that was one of his priorities, keeping his daughter and his family safe. And since that responsibility was now being passed on to Peter, he needed a promise that he would stay away from her, but still protect her and the people of New York City as Spider-Man. The fact that he breaks that promise, I kind of got annoyed by that he broke the promise. Teenagers never keep their promises, but I kind of think it would have made more sense had he decided to keep the promise and then swing off. Because, well, that's why I cut that entire plot line of Captain Stacy dying and all that from the first film, because when it ended happy, showing the first time Peter was indeed happy. The second film would have ended a bit sad, because now Captain Stacy's dead. Peter decided to stay away from Gwen, swing off disappointed that he's now lost the girl of his dreams. But he would get hope, but then just lose all of it in The Amazing Spider-Man 3 when Gwen died. And he would lose him everything. And that's why I think it would have made more sense for it to play out like that. Never did, but it would have been like that person. I would have liked it like that personally, for my opinion. So yeah. But yeah. I would have personally liked to seen that, but yeah. But yeah, I don't think Andrew Garfield was miscast. I don't think he was the worst one. I just think he didn't get enough time to shine and that his writing wasn't exactly written well. I would have loved to seen the James Vanderbilt, Steve Kloves, and Alan Sargent return for The Amazing Spider-Man 2 because they're amazing writers. James Vanderbilt can come up with great stories. Steve Kloves can come up with great ways to adapt from comics to screen. He did Harry Potter quite well, but yeah, he can take stuff from comic books and do it to movies, so I can see why he was chosen. And Alan Sargent can write such great scenes in some movies, and I think he was perfect to write some of these movies. Roberto Orci and Alex Kurman were not meant to be Spider-Man writers. They were better off writing other stuff. Why do I like the Transformers 2 movies, the first two movies they wrote? Well, Transformers 1 was a childhood movie of mine. The 2007 film was a childhood movie. And honestly, that was more of a together movie than the one they wrote for The Amazing Spider-Man 2. It didn't borrow any plot lines. It had decent amount of stakes, and it felt good. It had a pretty decent story that was actually quite decent. And Transformers 2, the story was clunky. It did need a whole lot of tweaking. Not a massive amount, but it did need tweaking. And I think people thrash on that one, rightly so. Transformers 3, yeah, I'd say that one was the best out of the entire Transformers films. Besides Bumblebee, out of all the Michael Bay films, Transformers 3 had the best writing out of the Michael Bay films, and I think they should have brought him back for the next two films. And yes, as many of you know, I've already made a Transformers 3 rewrite, and I do plan on making a Tier 4 rewrite, calling it not Transformers 4 Age of Extinction, just calling it Transformers 4 as well. But nonetheless, that was, yeah, just my opinion why I think Andrew was a misunderstood Spider-Man. Just make sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell, and make sure to check out the other videos. And in the next video we'll indeed be posting, we'll be talking about why I think that, in my opinion, that's my debate against the movie flame not understanding Spider-Man. Okay? See you lovely people. Bye.